There is a kind of stupidity people never notice. The confidence of those who think they already understand. You've seen them. People who speak with absolute certainty, quoting bits of philosophy as if they've touched the essence of the universe. But if you listen closely, you'll notice something strange. The less they truly know, the more they sound like prophets. Nietzsche once said, "The fool is drunk on his own light, until the darkness answers with silence." That truth isn't just about others. It's about you and me. Because who among us hasn't walked through that intoxicating stage where we felt wiser, deeper, more awake than the rest? That feeling is sweet, but dangerously sweet. Because when you believe you've already known, you stop learning, you stop listening, and without realizing it, you build around yourself a mirror of arrogance. In that mirror, the reflection always looks perfect, but false. Each glance shows only a polished version of yourself, the enlightened one, while the real you sinks quietly beneath the surface. That is the illusion of knowledge, knowing much, but not knowing the limits of what you know. And the irony is brutal. The more certain we are of our intelligence, the more foolish we become in understanding ourselves. But if you stay until the end, you'll see what most self-proclaimed thinkers never realize. That knowledge is not the destination of wisdom, but the first mirror, the one that forces you to see your own ignorance staring back. If you look closely, the illusion of knowledge doesn't only live in the ignorant. It breathes through every argument, every confident statement online, every smug look that says, "I already know." This disease spares no one, because it's born from a deeper fear, the fear of being seen as foolish. When we fear that, we start defending ourselves with knowledge. We collect ideas, learn big words, and build the appearance of wisdom to cover the emptiness within. But the more we try to appear wise, the further we drift from true understanding. Nietzsche once said, "Man will believe anything as long as it makes him feel superior to others." The ego does not seek truth, it seeks safety. And knowledge, once captured by the ego, becomes a shield, not to understand, but to avoid facing what is not yet understood. Think about it. Every time someone points out your mistake, your first reaction isn't "thank you," it's defense. The brain is programmed to protect the image of "I'm right," even when that kills your ability to learn. You can see this everywhere. In people who argue to win, not to understand. In experts who speak on every subject yet master none. In yourself. When you hear something that challenges your belief and feel that slight sting running through your body. That discomfort, that's the ego being touched. It hates uncertainty. It hates admitting it doesn't know. But unless you're willing to walk into the unknown, you'll never touch the truth. Because real knowledge begins the moment the illusion of knowledge collapses. The tragedy is that most intelligent people never allow that to happen. They live inside their perfect shell, convinced they've seen the light, when in truth, they're staring only at the reflection of it from the mirror of arrogance they've built. If you've ever felt this way, stay. Because the next parts will show you what even the enlightened often miss. That wisdom isn't about knowing, it's about the courage to unlearn. And if you're searching for a space to see yourself clearly, to question what you've always assumed to be true, subscribe to this channel, not for answers, but for reflection. Thank you for being here. Even if only for a few minutes, your presence is proof that there are still those brave enough to step beyond their comfort of knowing, to touch the truth that waits beyond it. Human beings hold a deep faith that knowledge will save them, that if they understand enough, they will stop making mistakes, stop being afraid, stop feeling lost. But Nietzsche once warned, Knowledge, when worshipped, becomes a new form of ignorance. It sounds like a paradox, but if you look closely, it perfectly describes our age, a world where people know too much and understand too little. They confuse holding information with holding truth, thinking with knowing, logic with wisdom. Jung called this the split between intellect and soul, when the brain evolves faster than the heart, leaving people believing they've awakened, when in reality, they've fallen into a collective trance. The intelligent are the most vulnerable to this illusion, because they trust the precision of their own logic. They believe everything can be explained, analyzed, and mastered if one just thinks hard enough. But consciousness isn't a machine. It's a mirror, and every time you shine more light on it, it reflects that light, blinding you to what truly needs to be seen. The illusion of knowing isn't about being wrong. It's about believing you're right enough to stop learning. The moment you say, "I understand," the mind begins to close. From that point on, what you see isn't truth. It's a version of truth edited to fit your expectations, perfectly logical, perfectly safe. The more evidence you collect, the more certain you feel, until you live inside a hall of mirrors where every reflection wears the same face, your own. Nietzsche once wrote, "The one who climbs the mountain of knowledge first is often the first to fall, not because the mountain is too high, but because he stopped looking down." When knowledge becomes power, people forget that every form of power comes with a price: the loss of humility, the loss of the ability to listen. Real wisdom isn't in knowing more. It's in remembering that knowing will never be enough. And in the next part, we'll go deeper into the unconscious mechanism that blurs intellect with ego, what Jung called the inflation of the self, when light no longer illuminates, but begins to burn the one who carries it. In the deepest layer of the mind, knowledge isn't just understanding, it's defense. When humans begin to fear uncertainty, they turn to knowledge as a new kind of religion. They collect books, data, arguments, not to understand, but to control. They believe that if they can explain enough, they'll never have to face the emptiness waiting inside. Jung called this ego inflation, the moment when the self devours the soul, turning every light of awareness into a shield. You can feel this in yourself. When someone challenges you, you don't get curious, you get hurt. Instead of observing, you react. Because in that instant, your ego is fighting for its survival. It doesn't crave truth. It craves the reassurance of being right. Nietzsche once said, "People do not defend truth. They defend their image inside it." And that is why the smarter a person is, the more they risk being trapped in the illusion of knowledge. They're not stupid, just too used to winning with intellect, forgetting that victory and truth are not the same. The unconscious works subtly. It tricks you into believing you're seeking light, while you're really collecting fragments of shattered mirrors to build a false sun. The more fragments you gather, the brighter it glows. But that light doesn't illuminate. It blinds. You think you're enlightened, but you're only blinded by what you've built. Nietzsche called this the blindness of brilliance, the inability to see in one's own light. The most terrifying part? You can't recognize it when it's happening, because by then, knowledge has stopped being a tool. It has become identity. You're no longer a person. You're the one who knows. You don't care about the truth anymore, only about maintaining the image of being enlightened. That's the moment the light changes color. When the ego takes over knowledge, growth stops. You no longer learn to expand. You learn to reinforce. Every new idea is accepted only if it proves you right. And so, the light you once sought turns into darkness within the mind. Here, Jung and Nietzsche meet. Both believe that no real illumination can occur without enduring the collapse of the intelligent self. And if you stay until the end, you'll understand what most of the awakened never realize. To see truth, you must first be willing to go blind, because only in that darkness can real light finally appear. Imagine a room with no windows, only a mirror hanging on the wall. Every morning you stand before it, fix your hair, smile, and believe that what you see is real. But the mirror isn't truly flat. It's slightly curved, slightly blurred, and each time you look, it subtly returns the version of you that you want to see. Smarter, sharper, more awakened. The light it reflects doesn't illuminate you. It only reinforces the illusion that you already shine. That is how the illusion of knowledge works. It doesn't lie. It reflects you in a way that keeps you comfortable. You read a few books, listen to a few philosophies, and then look into the mirror and see yourself as different. You begin to believe you've transcended others, that you see what they cannot. But the mirror of arrogance plays a cruel game. The longer you stare at it, the more you fade. At first, it's just a faint blur. Then slowly, your real face disappears. What's left is an artificial image, flawless, confident, hollow. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who becomes too enamored with his own reflection will soon forget the soul that created it." That is the tragedy of the intelligent. They believe the light on their face is their own, when it's only the reflection from a distorted mirror. And then one day, the mirror cracks. Maybe it's a failure. Maybe it's criticism. Maybe it's an unexpected collapse of everything you once believed. You look again, and the image shatters. In that moment, fear rushes in. But if you dare to stay, you'll see something you've never seen before. Your real face. Imperfect, but alive. That is the first step of real wisdom. The courage to look into a mirror that doesn't flatter you, where knowledge is no longer for display, but for peeling away. The mirror of arrogance is not your enemy. It is the mind's examination. When you can endure its distortion, you discover that truth doesn't live in the image you see, but in the moment you finally admit you were once deceived by your own reflection. If you truly want to know whether you're living inside the mirror of arrogance, watch how you react when you're wrong. The last time someone pointed out your mistake, what did you do? Did you stay quiet to understand, or did you rush to explain? The ego never says, "I'm afraid of being wrong." It says, "I have my reasons." It convinces you that your reaction is logical, that the other person doesn't understand, and that you don't need to change. But the truth is, every time you defend yourself, you're not protecting truth. You're protecting the illusion of being right. That's how the ego keeps its power. You can see it in the smallest moments. When someone disagrees with you, you don't listen to understand. You listen to strike back. When others speak of something they know, you feel irritation, not because they're wrong, but because a part of you fears they might be right. Nietzsche once said, "Truth doesn't hurt because it's false, but because it wounds the image we've built of ourselves." You don't feel attacked by the words themselves, but by how they touch the part of you that isn't ready to look. In your work, have you ever said, "I already know"? It sounds harmless, but it's the first symptom of closure. The moment you say, "I already know," you stop seeing anything new. The moment you say, "I understand," you disconnect from what's unfolding in front of you. What kills intelligence isn't ignorance. It's the exhaustion of a mind convinced it no longer needs to listen. And if you're honest, you'll find these moments everywhere. In how you interrupt someone, in the flicker of your eyes when corrected, in the calm expression that hides inner tension. We all have them. The difference lies here. The awakened pause and observe. The arrogant react and forget. And if something in you feels touched right now, don't close it off. Because in the next part, we'll shift the lens to see that humility isn't the opposite of knowledge, but its highest form. There's a kind of intelligence that isn't loud, doesn't argue, and doesn't need to be seen. It doesn't come from books. It comes from the courage to say 3 simple words: I don't know. Nietzsche once wrote, "Only he who dares to admit his own ignorance can begin to become wise." Yet this world teaches you the opposite. It tells you to always have an answer, to sound certain, to look like you understand. From childhood, you were rewarded for knowing, not for wondering. You were taught how to speak, not how to listen. And so, you grew up fluent in a distorted language, one where not knowing equals weakness. But the moment you dare to say I don't know, real intelligence begins to stir. It's not ignorance. It's the deepest humility, the ability to keep your mind open. Because the wisest person isn't the one with all the answers. It's the one who knows how to ask the right questions. When you stop trying to win every conversation, something strange happens. The quiet ones begin to outgrow you. They don't need to argue, they observe. They don't crave being right, they crave being real. That humility doesn't make them smaller, it allows them to see deeper. Jung called this the birth of self-awareness, the moment the ego begins to see itself. From here, you stop using knowledge to prove yourself and start using it to explore. You no longer seek truth to protect yourself, but to dismantle yourself. And in that state, you no longer fear being foolish. You realize that foolishness isn't failure, it's a stage. You can't learn if you've never been ignorant. You can't see if you've never been blind. The wise don't avoid mistakes. They enter them consciously. They err with honesty, and they learn in silence. They don't say, I know. They say, I'm learning. The world isn't short of intelligent people. It's short of those brave enough to stop. The more you fear being seen as stupid, the more you remain trapped in the need to look enlightened. And the irony is this: true light only appears when you dare to turn off the lamp. Beware the moment you feel you've understood everything, because that's when you're farthest from understanding anything at all. Nietzsche said, "Truth does not shine upon those who chase the light, but upon those who stand still in the dark." And if you feel that stirring within you now, don't turn away, because in the next part, we'll walk into practice itself. How to live with humble intelligence in a world that keeps forcing you to pretend you already know. Humble intelligence doesn't come from reading more. It comes from asserting less. Every time you're about to say, I already know, pause for a breath. Instead, ask yourself, do I truly understand? That small question protects you from falling back into the mirror of arrogance. The second practice, learn to listen without reacting. When someone says something you disagree with, resist the urge to interrupt. Hear them to the end, even when a voice inside you is screaming to respond. Each extra second of silence expands the range of your awareness. The third, write down 3 things you were wrong about each day. They don't have to be big. Maybe it's a hasty judgment, a wrong assumption, or an impatient reaction. Admitting them doesn't make you smaller. It makes you real. And finally, choose one person you'll allow to correct you. A friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, because no one can see themselves completely. Nietzsche said, "There is no mirror more honest than another person's eyes." If you practice these 4 things each day, you'll notice a quiet shift. You'll feel lighter, clearer, and less obsessed with being right. In that space, the mirror of arrogance no longer reflects a tense face. But a person who finally understands that true wisdom doesn't come from knowing more, but from seeing oneself still learning. The cost of intellectual illusion isn't stupidity, it's isolation. When you believe you already understand everything, you stop listening. And when you stop listening, you stop connecting. Every conversation turns into a stage. Every person around you becomes an audience, and you, the main actor in your own play. Your world slowly shrinks until it's only as big as your head. Nietzsche once said, "He who thinks himself wise has never truly faced himself." And the tragedy is, most people never do. They die convinced they understood life, yet never lived it fully for even a single day. The death of wisdom doesn't come from ignorance. It comes from arrogance. A person can recover from a mistake, but it's rare to recover from the belief that one cannot be wrong. The ego loves safety, but the soul does not. The soul grows through contradiction, through friction, through the breaking of what once felt certain. Each time you dare to doubt what you believe, a new crack of light opens within you. Humility doesn't make you smaller, it makes you real. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to be right. You simply stay present in the act of learning itself, and that, in its purest form, is intelligence. When you live that way, the light within you changes color. It's no longer the blinding flash of intellect, bright but brief. It becomes the deep, steady glow of awareness, quiet, enduring, and no longer in need of validation. Nietzsche wrote, "True clarity does not lift you above others. It only makes you more honest with yourself. And that is the mark of the truly awakened. They don't seek to conquer the world. They seek to understand it. They don't chase the light to shine, but to see the darkness within themselves." It's a subtle difference, but one that separates wisdom from illusion. And once you realize it, you stop wanting to win conversations. You just want to understand a little more about others and a little deeper about yourself. Imagine this. One night you find a small lamp. Its light isn't strong, just enough to show a few steps ahead. At first, you want it brighter. You add oil, you shield it from the wind, you try to make it blaze, until you realize that its brightness blinds you. So you learn to keep the flame soft, not too bright, not too dim, and then you understand. Wisdom works the same way. It isn't meant to be displayed. It's meant to guide you through the dark. The deeper you go, the gentler its glow becomes, but the truer it feels. It no longer shines outward to be admired, but inward to keep you awake. The world will always have people who speak loudly about what they know, who argue, prove, and proclaim their enlightenment. But you will be different. You won't need to win. You won't need to shine. You'll only need to keep your lamp burning just enough to see yourself clearly, and that's the only light that never betrays you. If something inside you cracked open today, let it, because real light can only enter through the cracks. And if you wish to keep walking this path a little further, stay. Every video here is another slit of light into the same question: how do you live brightly, without burning yourself in your own flame?